what was the thing you has been doing really well in your life so far that's make you that kind of successful as an HR professionals?
That's a big question, because it's sort of it's something that you need to think about after you've really gotten to where you want to be in your career, is how on earth did you get here? Look, I think the thing that I've found really valuable is just being really committed to learning. I sort of have a strong belief that learning doesn't stop when you finish school, or it doesn't stop when you finish college or university. Every day is an opportunity to learn a new skill or a new approach. So I really think that sort of having a lifelong approach to learning and picking up knowledge wherever I can from other people, from books, from experience, has been critical, I think, to my particular career anyway.
So far you mentioned about 3 things that really help you is actually knowing what you really want. Is very important. So guys, if you want to do something, so this is something it gives from Kat, that focus and figure out what you really want out of your career. So number 1. Number 2 is commit. 100% commitment always been one of the things. Number 2 she mentioned about. Number 3 is about grab opportunity, because if you're not committed, you will not be able to see the opportunities. You cannot grab it as well. So really stay always committed to, so you can grab it. So I want to go a little more details about your recruitment manager and HR talent acquisition. So what are the skill set did you really build in being a successful recruitment manager or in your field? So if you want to point out those skill sets.
Yeah, absolutely. Much like any profession, I guess, it's really split into 2 areas. So number 1 is technical skills, and that is, how do I do the job? So in my field, which is human resources and recruitment, talent management, talent acquisition, the technical skills have really sat around things like knowing the employment law. So in Vietnam, obviously the labour code, really understanding what you can and can't do, because there is a lot of risk built into the employment relationship. I think it's important, again, like any role, the administrative skills, computer knowledge, database management, being able to utilise technology that's available to either make you more efficient in your job or to support your company that you're working for. And obviously there's the broad and deep understanding of recruitment and HR practices. So, that's really the technical skills around interviewing, around working with people, psychological, psychometric elements of assessing people in the workplace and assessing them as they're going through a job interview. So I guess that's really the technical side, but from the other perspective is the soft skills, or what's often termed as enterprise skills, which really I think these apply across the board, if you're looking to develop your career, and that is having really strong organisational skills, being able to make quality decisions using data and information to help form your decisions, being able to negotiate, being able to work with others and collaborate. But, certainly having a level of empathy, trying to understand what the person that you're dealing with, or talking to or working with, where they're coming from, and understanding what's driving them and their motivations. So empathy in the HR space is a really big one. First seek to understand, I think is a really important thing to keep in the back of your mind.
Fantastic. There was a series of a lot of things, actually, guys. So what just Kat just mentioned, that you really need to, if you want to be as successful in an HR field, so these are the skills that really make Kat successful in recruitment industry. So number 1 is about you really need to know about the core competencies of the technical roles, or how to do the job. So number 2 is know about labor codes, and labor law is going to be a very crucial one. If you're ignoring because it's boring, it's in the book stuff, and it's always getting up to date, actually this is something you need to know as well, because that's what Kat did. Number 3 is about use the technology, learn how to partner with IT department. Your company must have an IT department, partner with them. So that's why they can empower you and can help you to use the technology. Number 4, you have to build a great interview interviewing skill. It doesn't matter which function you are in HR, even recruitment is very crucial. Actually, we're going to dive down how to interview people and how you should do that. Stick around, guys. Katie's going to share her secrets. Number 5, to build your soft skills. Very important. She did this one. Number 6, she mentioned about the organizational skill. Organization skill, how to drive organizational skill. Or what is organizational skill set? We're going to dive down a little bit, actually, because I think this has been overlooked and a lot of people doesn't really understand organizational driving skill. And then she mentioned about negotiation skill, because that's something that's going to be very critical, because you're going to negotiate for the organization, for your talent, and so on. And the last one is an empathy. You really need to know how you can use the empathy. So guys, one thing is very important, that everybody can play football. Everybody can hit the ball with a tennis, but who actually get paid for that? The serious master of that one. So Kate has been successful in this profession because she could master the skill sets. So that's really made her a successful HR professional. So company would like to have her in the team. So that's going to be a question for Kate right now. What thing did you do to learn this skill?
Yeah, and yeah, great question. I talked a little bit before about my kind of very keen passion about lifelong learning and trying to, wherever I can, learn from others. So, I think the things that I've particularly utilized in my career is obviously formal education. I think that is critical, but I actually only undertook formal education a little bit further, sort of mid-career. I started looking at doing my master's in HR management. And what that did, I guess, was really sort of give me, it kind of made sense. It put everything that I'd experienced in the workplace and gave it some conceptual, gave me some conceptual understanding around that. I learned from others. I think, a tip that I would give to anyone is to find someone you admire in the workplace. You like the way they operate, and who is knowledgeable, who has experience, and then really try and follow them or copy them, or even if you get a chance to spend a day with them and observe the way they organize themselves, the way they make decisions, the way they interact with others is a really useful thing to do. Because, if it's someone that you think that you admire, then you're inspired by them and you can learn. Being inspired by people is a great way to learn. Saying yes, it's something that Richard Branson says, actually, is if you're offered an opportunity, say yes, learn how to do it later. Don't worry about, if someone's offering you to get involved in something, say yes, because you will learn so much in doing that. And it will expand your skills and your knowledge base and probably send you off in a direction that you perhaps may have thought you might not have gone in. So I think critically, there are the formal skills, but then there are the way you learn from people, and you learn by doing, right? So by getting involved in as much as you can, seeking opportunities, asking for opportunities to be involved in things will certainly, and that's really what I've done is sort of asked to be involved in things, even if I didn't exactly understand them. And from that, I've learned. So I think they're probably the key areas that I've focused on in my career.
Right, there's a lot. I figure there are 6 very valuable bullets into it, guys. So let's summarize this. Number 1, she mentioned about lifelong learning. She always had a habit of always being open for learning new skills and new knowledge and so on. And that's not about only just learning, but she also practiced it. So do it. Doing it is also a matter. It's not about just putting something in a storeroom, but also the things are only get useful when you start using that one rather than just only putting in the storeroom. So do it. Number 3, invest in yourself. So this is something really critical. She also mentioned she has a master's degree. She has been doing so many other things to invest in yourself. So you need to learn to invest in yourself. Whatever money you're making end of the day, a portion of that one you should be investing in yourself. You really need to do a math that if you're putting this one more and this one more, and rather than putting less here, you have troubles. So that's something Kate also mentioned this one too. Number 4, learning from others. So that is one of the crucial way too. So like she has been following different experts in the career, and she was copying them, learning them inside the organization and outside the organization to learn from them. And yes, she mentioned a very interesting one. Yes, learn to speak more yes. Because when you learn to speak more yes, that is a good reflection of your internal optimism power. You are positive about it. So So learn to speak yes. And the last one she mentioned about have a curious mindset. Ask. If you don't understand, ask. If you don't understand, think and ask. So that was the key takeaways from this one. Thank you, Kat. I think that was very, very cool points for the viewers to learn from you and execute in their life. So now I wanna join move to the next question about. So you've been as a executive manager of people and business operations. So how do you think that HR can contribute more values for the organizations they are doing right now, particularly when we are at the verge of Industry Revolution 4.0 and a lot of technology is taking over many manual works? So how do you see in this space, let's say from 2020 to 2025, these 5 years?
Yeah, we're in a huge period of change, and I think it's even interesting looking at where we are with this COVID-19 and the global impacts of not only society but the world of work. I think it's a really interesting time to be, in my field in HR, because the impacts of people, and then as we move through to the automation and the loss of the loss of jobs in the market as well. HR, I think, can play a really critical role. HR management can play a critical role in the next 5 years, but it's got some pretty significant hurdles to jump in order to be really effective. I think HR has to be seen to be valuable in any organisation. So that means that the company needs to recognise the importance of its people, first and foremost. And understand that the role HR and HR professionals can play in that is by building structures that will support the organisational strategy. So, basically strategic HR management is about getting people to help deliver the organisational strategy. So whatever form that takes, and that might look like systems and processes that mean that the workforce don't have to waste time in applying for leave or anything that takes them away from their core functions. But it also will build engagement of your skilled staff. So if you're bringing people on board and there's a war for talent, which we know the skills that are required are continually changing, you need to be an organisation that people want to work for and bring those really rare skills to your organisation. So a company has to think about what they need to do in order to attract those people to their company and keep them. So HR has a role to play in pay structures, reward and recognition structures, the full really gamut of everything that HR does, getting the right people, the right time, in the right place with the right skills is completely critical. And with all of that in place, then that builds the organisational culture. But look, I think, going back to the point around being valued and valuable, there are a lot of HR practitioners that do a lot of non-valuable work and really are just sort of shuffling paper around and not really contributing. So that gives our profession sometimes a bad reputation. And I think, we as HR professionals have to jump over a few hurdles to prove that we can be valued, but also to ensure that we can impact the bottom line of any operation and make it financially successful.
Great. So when I was listening, it's a great feedback actually about how HR can be. There's a lot of professionals maybe will argue, they will say they're already overused, some of them. But I like your more mindset when you say that actually we can be better. So that's represent a growth mindset. So number one, she mentioned about is adopt changes. Be ready to adopt changes, not just have a fixed mindset, but have a growth mindset. Number two is about do things which is more valuable. And constantly think about what are the things could be more valuable. So number two. Number three is about just being more efficient. This is also important too, she mentioned. And this is the fourth one. What I understand from her related to the first one is about use technology and partner with technology department and utilize more technology for your work. And no, number one is a focus more about the culture. She mentioned about this one. HR can contribute more about having really great cultures as well too. Thank you, Kate, for mentioning about all this great point. Guys, so if you are in an HR field, so these are the key 5 things. You can see yourself where you are in this 5, and then you can see that what you can do more in each of the field, and that could be a great direction for you. What just Kate told you, focus on them, and then you can build better team and actually make yourself more valuable in the business. So the company will invest more in you and empower you to that's the point in this whole spectrum, because business always want that one too. So I'm moving to the next point, but before moving to the next point, I just wanted to get it this one point which you really mentioned about soft skill. You mentioned about as an HR professional, you have to build the soft skills. So what are the top 5 soft skills you think that every HR professionals have to have?
Yeah, top 5 soft skills. There's probably 1,000. To narrow it down to 5 is a bit tricky, I think. But look, I would say I've mentioned empathy, so that's one. You know, empathy is about it's about trying to get to a point of understanding where the other person is coming from. It helps in everything from negotiation, conciliation, you know, workplace issues, to just actually problem solving. So absolutely empathy. Critical thinking is probably number 2. And by critical thinking, I mean always challenging the way things are being done. And not just for the sake of it. You know, you don't change things for the sake of it, but it is about always critically thinking, what are we doing? Can we be doing it better? What's the best practice in this field? What suits our operation? So a lot of those critical thinking skills. I think being process focused. So really understanding, a manager said this to me a while ago, and it's always stuck with me, is that whenever you're looking at the way something's being done, imagine it as a bit of paper that's being taken around to an operation and saying, you know, here it's being passed to this person, and it's being passed to that person, and it's being passed to that person. Do all those people really need to touch that bit of paper? And so being process driven and thinking about it in that perspective means that you are going to make some efficiencies by just looking at the way things are being done. So understanding how things work and why they work that way, and better ways of doing things is I think is important in my field. Obviously, some of those soft skills is around learning. There's really no way to avoid it in HR. You need to keep up to date with law or legal changes, maybe immigration law changes. You know, that there are some risks involved in this profession. So, you know, you're dealing with people, and there is a very close relationship with both ethics and law. So you need to be up to speed, and that's where that learning side comes into it. I think there's always time for reflection. You know, I think it's important to think about the decisions you make to make sure that they're the right decisions, and, you know, talking more generally about decision-making processes. So, yeah, I think it is important to think about the way you make decisions and continually reflect on those. Is certainly important. Is that 5? I'm not sure how much.
Yeah, I got it 5. Yeah, I got it 5. Yeah. So guys, I just bring this out from Kat. So this is something really she said it. So I just want to summarize right. Number 1, empathy. Number 2, learn to negotiate. And it's a skill. It's not just talking. It's a skill. Negotiation is a skill. Number 3 is a critical thinking. Number 4 is a process-focused mindset. And the last one is about the reflect yourself. Don't just always think you're always right. There are so many people doing wrong thing and digging their own holes by thinking they're always right. This is something could be very dangerous for you if you're building a career in HR. So Kat really mentioned about it. So remember, even it's the number 5, but I think it's very, very, all of them are very crucial. I want to go to the next question right now. So what will be your tips for preparing someone to have a job interviews? So everybody professionals, sooner or later, they will change their job. They're going to have a new job interview. They're going to move their company, or even in the same company to promote to the next level. Many company has a internal process to interview themselves again as well too, their stuff. So what other tips do you want to give someone, or you really practice on your own life when you go to a job interview?
Yeah. It's kind of the golden ticket, really. The number 1 thing everyone wants to know is, how do I get the job that I want? Look, the thing about interviews is that it's about preparation. I mean, it's a big word that encompasses a lot of things, but, you know, the interview really should be looked at as a conversation. I think a lot of people go into an interview thinking that they're being assessed, and automatically you feel frightened or nervous. If you change your mindset before going into an interview and saying, well, no, I'm assessing them as well, it really changes your whole approach to that discussion. Yes, of course, they're going to want to know, you know, about you and know your background and experience, but you should also go in wanting to know about them, what their values are, what their ethics are, what they can offer you, you know, what your opportunity to learn and develop might be in that organisation. And I really do think going into an interview with that mindset just makes it a far less stressful and far more interesting process. So know the company, obviously, do your research, come ready to talk about your experience and things that you've had, you know, that you've achieved in previous jobs. If you haven't had a previous job, be ready to, I guess, talk about the values and the skills that you have that you could bring to that operation, and be ready to ask questions, you know, around what their goals are and what they're trying to achieve, because then you can also make some assessment about them as an employer. So yeah, I mean, preparation is key, obviously, being ready to answer their questions, but also to go in with that, again, critical mindset. You know, are they an organisation that I want to work for?
All right. So number one is Kate mentioned about prepare. Don't just come unprepared in the interview. That looks really bad. It's like simply like you're going to date and you don't know anything about your future partner or want to spend some time. So preparing something, think about it. How much time do you really spend? Just think about it this way. You are in a date with a guy or a girl, and that person is meeting you in shorts, and then what will be your impression will be. So preparation is the key. Number two is about it's a conversation. It's a conversation, and it's a two-way. It's not about just one way. It have to be both way too. They're interviewing you, you are going to interview them as well too. Number three, she mentioned about ask question. There's a lot of time as an interviewer. I ask the questions to interview. Do you have any questions? And there's a long pause. So that's a clear indication that the person didn't prepare actually. So you don't want to reveal that bad in an interview that even having any questions. So there are two things trigger when you don't have any question. Number one thing trigger is probably you don't prepare anything. Number two is maybe you are not understanding so far what's happening in this one, because it's impossible to clarify anything, even the vision or core value of a company in an interview. So there should be a question related to that one as well too. So these are the top 3 points Kate mentioned about it. Just wanted to bring a related question for this one, because what you just said, I think that's very valuable, and you put it on the preparation is number 1. What is the difference between a preparation in a, let's say, a CEO role or C-suite role and a manager role? Somebody going for a management role and somebody going for an interview of a C-level role. What are the difference in that preparation? Will you please mention some?
Yeah, absolutely. They're quite different. I would say from a C-suite corporate executive type position, from a preparation perspective, but also by the way that the assessment works, is really about vision and strategy. So from a C-suite perspective, they're going to want to know what your strategic plan would be if you were successful in that particular position. Often that might look like, what would your first 6 months or 12 months look like in this position? And how would you measure that you had been successful? So a lot of that means you need to have a really deep understanding of the operation or the organisation that you're applying for an executive or C-suite position. You would need to understand the internal and external pressures or landscape, so that you could address some of their strategic needs. you would absolutely need to be able to portray your knowledge of, particularly the external landscape, the networks, the industry, and be able to address those through an interview around how you would plan to ensure business success in your area. From a management perspective, this is more around your ability to lead and drive the work through your people. So that, a lot of the focus there would be about your ability, to manage people and to hit organisational goals that are put on you or your department. And it's likely to be far more internally focused rather than the C-suite, which would be externally focused. I think, in summary, that they're probably the key differences.
Thank you. I think what you said is very valuable. So guys, I want to summarize. So when you are going for a C-suite, number one, you got to focus about a vision. You need to have a vision of a particular role, and which comes with your strategic planning. And to do the strategic planning, you really need to know the company's business model and service model, so you can come up with a strategic plan. And for do this one, you really need to do research. So which is to do the research, and your strategic plan should be very much focused more about external rather than only internal. And that's one of the key difference when you are a manager role or type role you're interviewing and going for a C-suite role. You need to define about how you're going to define your success as well too. And the last one she actually mentioned, come up with a plan, 6 to 12 months. And that could be a super validation point for you to validate it during the interviews. Because when you're going for C-suite role, it's not going to be only one round of interview. It's going to be multiple round of interview. And that will help you out to filter and optimize your plan. And when you come to the more rounds you go, more reps you make, you're going to have a better strategic plan, and that will help you to go. So there are two types of interviewer will be. The one type of interview will be really taking inputs and improve their plan. Another type of interviewers, they will not. They will stick to their own plan with a fixed mindset, and that's the losing game. So you don't want to be in a losing game. Number two, so this is something really helped me as a person as well too. When I was getting a C-suite role in a corporation from as a senior manager to a C-suite person as a CIO, these are what she just mentioned. This is absolutely right. So these are so much important to get into corporate, because if you don't do them, you will never look like you're competent enough. You will look like somebody like senior manager or manager, which very much about internal thing and drive and getting things done. If you come to the interview, you're so much focusing about getting things done, drive the goals, leading the people, which is great, but it's very much internal focus. I think Kat mentioned it really hit it right point. Thank you. That's a great valuable for the viewers. So guys, so these are the things to execute. If you're going for a manager role or senior manager role, she already mentioned where to focus. And if you're going to go for C-suite, you know the 7 points to focus. Now I want to move to the next part actually. This is more, I think this is something you are very thing. Like me, even I think as being an HR person, as a recruitment thing, I think you are into thousands of CVs. So those CVs, there's a set of CVs really trigger you angry by looking into them, and there's a lot of CV wowed you. So yeah. So with that situation, basically, there's a lot of people still don't know how to write a great CVs, or really constantly putting the things in their CV. So in this part, we really wanted to bring value for these viewers. What would be your 7 tips to make a stunning CV?
Yeah. It's a great question. And yes, I have looked at millions of CVs. Look, I've got 7 tips, and I'll list them. But I think the thing about CVs is that they are completely individual. They are by their very nature a representation of you as a person. So the last thing in the world that I would say is every CV should look the same, because that will not only kill every recruiter from boredom, it's not their intent. And, you do need to put a bit of your personality into your CVs is something that I would suggest. So, look, I'll go through these. I would say keep them short, no more than 2 or maximum 3 pages. If you're going beyond that, you're going into too much detail, and you're probably not being as specific as you should be about your experience. Number two, clarity. Absolutely try and make them as clear as possible, both in the way that you structured them from your career history, as well as the formatting. There is nothing worse than trying to work out where did this person work and when and what did they do there. It's, if you're trying to spend your time as a recruiter trying to understand the CV, the chances are you're not going to be put forward for a job because the recruiter can't understand your background. Dates is a big one. And by dates, I mean making sure you list them and you've checked that they're correct and accurate, and how long you were in specific jobs, how long you spent at a particular organisation. So check and recheck again. Also explain any absences or any time you might have taken a break from the workforce, because if you've got on a CV that you finished one job in December 2016 and then you don't start working again until June 2017, the first thing, nothing else will matter. The first thing will be, what were they doing for those 6 months? And that's, and so think about dates. Obviously, highlight your technical skills in your CV and your transferable skills. By transferable, I mean those soft enterprise skills that apply across every job that you might go for. But don't fall into the trap of continually using the same CV for every job. It is fine to tailor your CV so that it is specific to the job you're applying for. And in fact, worth doing. Get rid of the stuff that's not important and highlight the bits that are relevant for the job that you're applying for. So edit. Every time you send your CV off, edit it to make sure that it's selling you for that particular job. Make it interesting. I've talked about it should be something that is representing your individuality. Use colour. Make it readable, though. Don't use crazy fonts that can't be understood. Use colour. Make sure it's formatted clearly. I'd avoid using photos. I know some companies request a photo. That's fine. But, obviously, if it's sort of stock standard or using a Microsoft Word template that everyone else is using, yours isn't going to stand out. And then I would obviously make sure that you list your qualifications, when you achieve them. I wouldn't be putting things in there like your personal interests. I think that those days are long gone. I think I'd be then perhaps focusing on things like, if you volunteered, what your social values are, I suppose, and where you might have gotten extra skills that are not necessarily represented in your career. So I would list those, as well as all your training and qualifications. So I think that's my key seven that I would recommend.
I think that the amount of CVs you went through, I know that it's very hard to point out only 7 things, because you could run a whole workshop training people how to write a great CV. And probably we'd love to have you in such kind of workshop as well, if you could pull out some time from your busy schedule. I think you are going to love it, because there's a lot of people. But the guys, here are the summary of the 7 things you need to do to have a great CV. Number 1 is keep it short. Not make it as an essay. Number 2, make it very clear and transparent so everybody can do it. People cause it, if you're 75 years old, woman or grandma can read it and understand it. So that's very clear. Number 3 is about put the dates very clearly and correctly, because dates are very crucial, because that's what the recruiter go through. You're hearing from a recruiter. Number 4 is make sure your transferable skill and all there, and do not send the same piece of standard CV for every jobs. It takes time to edit, but it's worth it. Again, otherwise it's very annoying and you're not going to stand out. Number 6 is make it interesting. Use colors. Don't make it boring. Number 6 is list your qualifications, proper qualifications. They all love to read them. And number 6 about don't talk about your some unvaluable hobbies. If you love watching TV series, probably it's not going to be good. But if you did some volunteering and helping some community stuff, put it on. That's going to be added value. So these are the 7 takeaway for having a great CV. Thank you, Kate. I think these are all valuable, and tons of mistakes are coming everywhere in the CV when you're looking into it. I think one of the biggest takeaway is about most of the people, when it comes to getting a job, people spend so less time to apply for a job, and people are so much into instant gratification. Now, LinkedIn, 2 clicks, you can send the CV, and people sending hundreds of CV, focusing more about volume rather than the quality of the application. Your volume, like you are using a shotgun and you're hoping that one day you'll hit some really good target. Make it a skill like a Swiss knife, and then you're well prepared and everything you have in your tool, and then you can get the right job. Now I would like to move to the next question, but here I would like to say a few things, guys. Here that Lei sent us a message to us. Hey, Kate. Hey, John. Good to see both of you. So she say hello to both of us. Just to say that Kate used to work together with Lei as well in the same team in RMIT. And the viewers, please put up your question. I see there's some great questions coming in already. Please keep commenting in the different stream. Just keep comment the questions in the stream. We're gonna go to Q&A. We got a few more questions to go, and then we'll cover a good 30-minute for you to answer. So there's a 30-minute for Q&A, so you can keep booming up the questions, and we're gonna, as long as it's a good one, we're gonna answer them. And or answer something which is related to the same topic. So you're gonna get an answer from Kat. Kat is here to help you out. So let's get the help. So now moving to the next question is about, look, you've been like a full-time manager, you've been doing a postgraduate students, and you have a lovely 3 kids as well too. So that's comes to a lot of excuse or reasoning for many other professionals. They said that I just cannot move to the next rounds of my career because I have so many things to do as a woman. What thing really do to help you to be efficiently manage so many streams at the same time? Many of the professionals said, oh, I can't take another degree because I don't have time. Oh, I have to quit the job to study my next level. But you have been doing all simultaneously. What are the things you're doing to be efficient?
Yeah, look, I think to be fair to everyone who's trying to do that, it is not easy. It is, it's not easy. And I think, while I was doing my master's and I was working full time and had 3 young children at the time, it was incredibly stressful. So I don't think I have any magic bullet to say it's an easy thing to do. It's not. But what it does do, what you do need it is really about commitment and keeping focused on what your end goal is. So I think that the kind of tricks that I used and still do use to this day, in fact, it seems obvious, but I prioritized, what was important. How did I put my day into sections so that I was able to give my family time, I was able to give my work time, and I was able to give my study time. So, prioritizing, and that's really about, for me, was about making lists about what I wanted to achieve that day. And trying to be as disciplined as I could about that. So, if I was focusing on my family, I wasn't allowing work or study to distract me. And likewise, when I was studying, I was not letting work or family distract me. So it was really removing those distractions, and I still do that to this day. If I'm focusing on one thing, and simple things like turning my email off. I hate being, my day being dictated to by my email inbox. So I often, if I'm feeling like I've got to get some work done, I'll just turn it off. People can wait. People can wait, an hour or 2 hours for a response to an email. I think we've all been trapped in this idea that we have to respond to every email the minute we get them. I think, that stops us being effective in our work. Schedule breaks, it's a bit of a no-brainer. Well, but your brain needs a rest. Go for a walk, go for a run, go out and get some air, get some sun, whatever it is. But sometimes you just need to not think about anything, and that gives you the energy to then refocus back again at work or study or whatever it may be. Number one, a really big one is being realistic about what you can achieve, not only to yourself, but to others. So, if you have a deadline or if you have some work to deliver, be honest about when you'll get it done. Don't try and say, I'll get it done, it'll be done first thing, I'll be right onto it. Be realistic about when you can get things done, because then you're more likely to achieve them. You won't add stress to your life, to your work life, and you will do a better job. So try, and that's where that negotiation comes in. Your boss, your manager might be saying to you, I need this done first thing tomorrow morning. And if you're you're not going to get it done, then say that and say, okay, if I do that, that means I can't do this other thing that I'm working on. What's more important to you? What's more important to you that I actually complete? And work with that person to work out a realistic delivery time, because otherwise your work will suffer as a result if you're trying to rush, and you will suffer, from stress or pressure or whatever it may be, and trying to too many conflicting priorities that you just can't realistically achieve. So I think the big lesson there is be kind to yourself, and if you can negotiate, do that. People tend to understand, and it's a much better outcome for all. And use the knowledge and skills of others around you. I definitely seek help. If I'm struggling with work or study or whatever it may be, I ask someone who's got more knowledge in that particular area, or ask for reference so that I can go do some reading. So definitely using other people's knowledge and skills to help me in my career has been a critical thing. Yeah, you can't do it on your own. So I think that's how I would sum up how I've kind of tried to remain effective despite, a lot of different life conflicts.
That was a very valuable points, actually. There's a total of 10 points into it.
Oh, sorry, I did too many.
Great. That's great. No, that's great. Each of them are so good, and each of them are so valuable for the viewers to really understand. Because when you are making an excuse, you're trapping into it. You're just convincing yourself you're right. And that is the biggest point, is nobody can make you as fool as much as you can make yourself. So that is the main punchline when it comes to making an excuse, guys. So I'm going to summarize the 10 point, which actually Kit just mentioned, which really helped her to do multiple things in her same life. Number 1, accept it's not going to be easy. That's the first. Number 2, put 100% commitment, commit into it. Number 3, focus on the result. Number 4, set priorities. Number 5, stay disciplined. If you think that you're partying too hard, you're working too hard, every day, every weekend, maybe it's not going to be disciplined for you. But there is another thing. There is a relaxing time as well too. She also mentioned about it. You need to sometimes stay just for a while, take a break and gain back the energy. Go for an experience, go for a traveling somewhere. That's a great way to get that freshness out of your head. And probably you get a new idea when you are in a different zone. So that's why changing the air is so valuable. Number 6 is avoid distraction. Anything distract you, you distract that. Number 7, schedule breaks. So that she already mentioned. Number 8, being always realistic, guys. Don't be unrealistic. If you have a big vision, set up micro goals. That will help you out. Number 9, ask for help. Don't be shy to ask for help. And for this one, if you have great friends, you can get great helps as well too. And 10 is, which is I understand, is have a mentor in your life that can help you. That mentor doesn't mean that somebody you have to have a one-on-one call every week, but you can actually simply follow them, like you mentioned previously. You can follow them in LinkedIn, you can follow them in Twitter, or you can follow them in different platforms, and you can see them. And probably sometime you have raised a question, go ahead and ask a question. Like today, what Kate is doing here in this stream, we open for a Q&A. So come on and put on your questions as well too. So one of the comments come on as well from the viewers. Be realistic and be kind to yourself. So that's very good point as well too. Thank you for the comment out. Now, so I'm just showing you that comment in there as well. So it's also coming from Leigh as well. So now let's move to the next question as well. So the next question is going to be a little bit about your organization driving skill, because I think I just want to bring it here in this conversation because I think it's so valuable. Because a lot of people going to work and they forgot why they really go to work. They're very much focused about their salary, but why they're coming to work and what value they need to add on in the company, and which HR really focused about learning about it. So how do you want to explain organizational driving skill as an employee inside the spirit of working, and how do you see it?
So do you mean sort of like, how do you see people being driven in the workplace, or do you mean
yeah.
Okay, so I actually teach a little bit about this in at the moment around motivation, and I think, you know, the big thing is that people at different stages of their career are driven by different things. You know, people at different stages may just simply be interested in getting a job and getting an income and you know, helping them live their lives. Then as you move through, you know, you might become more focused and more motivated by developing your career, you know, taking the next steps through your career, because that might give you some self validation or make you feel like you're developing and growing. You know, money may not be as important as actually just getting the experience. So, you know, that can change. And obviously, as you then progress through your career, it's about, perhaps it might be more about giving back to the industry that you've spent your lifetime working within, and therefore you might be motivated by, you know, doing things such as this, helping others experience a successful career. So, you know, that may be what motivates you. All throughout your life, you'll be motivated by different things. But, you know, in the workplace, I think it's about every manager recognizing that every person they've got in their team will be there for a different reason. And trying to understand that and utilize that to help them achieve their goals is, I think, one of the most important critical aspects of any manager. That's what you know, I've always said I go into a job as a manager with the goal of making my job irrelevant or not needed, because everyone in my team has been so skilled that they don't need me anymore. And that's, you know, I think that's a critical point for any manager and anyone going into a role is to understand what is driving you, so you can have that conversation with your manager and they can help you get there. So I don't think there's a one size fits all really about what drives people in the workplace. But I think it is up to each individual manager to understand what that is and help that person get to where they want to go.
I think what you just said is very, 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 very valuable. I just feel as a lot of people are thinking about they're going to work and they need to be in the same company for years after years in the same position. So Kate, and I'm very much aligned with you too as well. When I want to go to work, like you mentioned about go and helping the team out and make yourself redundant. And when you can you can develop your people to a certain level, and you can make yourself redundant there, the two things going to happen. One, you probably will move to the next role in your same organization, or probably the another organization. So it's always a winning game for you guys. So never being shy to develop your people, empowering your people. And one of the things Kate also mentioned about, you are in a company because of a pain point of a company. Company has a pain point, and that's why they hire you. And that's your goal, to resolve that pain point and build processes so that pain point can extinct from the company. So that's really to that point number one, where you can make yourself even redundant by developing other people. And that's always winning game for you, because that will push you to the next role, the same organization or in the next organization. Good work will be always recognized. That's the rule of the workforce. So now on to probably the last questions. I'm going to move forward. So I'm going to just want to talk to the viewers. Hey, viewers, go ahead and I see there's some great questions coming in. I see there's an HR manager ask questions. There is a young student ask questions. So I can see those lovely questions. So keep commenting your questions in the stream, and we're going to go through. So and it's coming soon. And as the Q&A is starting very soon, so keep commenting out. And the last question from my side, and then we're going to start your Q&A. The last question is about what are the top 5 skills you will be looking for an HR operations role?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Look, it's similar to, I think, what I spoke about before. You know, I would be looking for someone who has those critical thinking skills, who's able to look at a situation from all angles, and I guess make some really, you know, and make their decisions based on valid and reliable data, you know, to make sure that, I guess, you know, assessing a situation critically and moving forward with the best possible solutions. So I think that's a really important skill, not just in HR operations, but I think in pretty much every role in every organisation anywhere. Critical thinking, as we're in this hugely changing work environment, is a fundamental skill, I would say. I think, again, obviously talking about those things around employment law and industry trends, I think keeping yourself informed is a critical thing. What's happening in the industry, what's happening in the world of work, what are your competitors doing, what's new technology or new practice that's coming out. So always keeping yourself informed, and, from a HR operations perspective, critical. There's a lot going on globally. Management is a key issue that's very closely linked to HR operations. So, what's happening in the world of management, reading journals, reading magazines, following managers, which you talked about before, is really important. So, and if you can display that, you can apply that knowledge in the workplace and in your jobs, in your work. Again, it's really sort of going back over some of those other things. I'd be interested in looking at someone who's keen to learn, who wants to experience, and, not only formal learning. I'm not talking about education. I'm talking about, willing to put their hand up and say, I'll get involved in that project. I don't know much about it, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to understand this. I think is really, really important. So they're probably my top suggestions there.
Thank you. So that was a question actually brings some more value. So Kat already mentioned about some of the when you should be doing it, right? And then there are a few things she mentioned more after this like a side cushion. So she mentioned about, again and again, she's been talking about critical thinking. You really need to build that thing. Number 2 is about industry trend. Learn about what is happening in the industry. And I'm going to take, so there's a call. Somebody wanted to send a question. So I'm going to send a message and say that, hey, just text. We're not going to take the call in this one.